Hello everyone and welcome to our knowledge transfer session. Today we're going to talk about what's becoming a hotter topic in the industry. It's called tax loss harvesting and direct indexing, and they really are meant to be paired together as a concept. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of unpack this and talk about why this is kind of like having your cake and eating it too, basically. So my name is John Erickson. I have over 17 years of service in the financial services industry. I've worked everywhere from a bank to an insurance company to running my own practice. I'm a graduate of Washington State University, and my roots in Washington State run pretty deep. My office is in Bellevue, Washington, and I love creating these knowledge transfer sessions. I really think it shows my personality and it just kind of lets me talk, and this is kind of fun always. Today we're going to talk about some very specific strategies. We're going to give some very specific examples. But we have to treat this as general information. This is not guaranteed. You can't guarantee any of these strategies specifically. So just recognize that as we talk about this. So tax loss harvesting and direct indexing is pretty cool. I love this concept. It's becoming a bigger concept, in fact. But we have to understand, okay, what is this? Why is this interesting? We have to understand the problems. Okay, nothing's perfect in the financial services industry. And then we're going to understand ways to utilize this, or how do you use this for yourself. So let's talk about having your cake and eating it too. Let's assume that we can achieve S&P 500 returns, which is roughly 12% a year. That's the last 10 years as an example, which means your money doubles around every 6 years or so. Also if you go up 30 or down 30, you're basically doing that yourself, okay? So you're growing your money, you're doubling it. But at the exact same time on your tax bill, you're getting $100,000 off. You are saving $100,000 while doubling your money. And then someday you're gonna pass away, and that big tax bill that you're now pushing way off for the future because you're making a whole bunch of growth and you're kind of getting some money off now, well, when you pass away, at least from a capital gains perspective, you get the step up in basis and that tax bill never comes due, right? So you've got to double your money, you got to save money on taxes now and avoid taxes in the future. And you get to have access to your money. You're not locking it up into some crazy thing. You own individual stocks, and just like anything else, you can sell them, pay taxes, and go on with your life, basically. So is this too good to be true? Right? It looks too good to be true if you really think about it. And the thing that you have to understand is this is becoming bigger business. You can go to Fidelity's website, Schwab's website, Vanguard's website, and you can kind of see them starting to talk about this. And it makes sense because you typically get to charge higher fees when you get to do something more complicated. So they would like to do this for sure. And technology has really changed a lot of this because you have commission-free trading platforms, fractional shares. You couldn't necessarily do this as a consumer or someone who wasn't fairly wealthy and have someone do this for you. So now you actually have direct consumer options that are available to you, and it's really around technology. And just to kind of reiterate this, let's kind of really dive into this. Let's assume you could deposit $250,000 year one, and then an additional $100,000 for 4 years. And so you should recognize we're talking real deposits. I can't make this deposit today, and so a lot of people can't make these deposits. But let's assume you could. So you could deposit $650,000 over the course of 5 years. After 5 years, you're hoping to see this. You're hoping to see your money grew at roughly 8% in this example, and you also have a tax loss of $110,000 that you got to use to deduct from your taxes. And then after 10 years, you're hoping your money's almost doubled, and your cumulative losses, which are slowing down over time, are going to be around $175,000. And you can now use that to offset some capital gain like a concentrated stock position, sale of a business, sale of a property, things of that nature. So you're getting to have your cake and eat it too. Now, to understand why this is possible, why can you technically do this? You have to understand two mechanics, the harvest and the direct indexing. So the harvest is that whenever a stock goes down in value, you're trying to sell it to generate a loss. But then you're also trying to rebuy other stocks that are similar in class, or what you're trying to do is you're trying to buy the same stock once you're past wash rules, and this is called the harvest because you're harvesting a loss. Now, In theory, because the stock market tends to go up over the long term, stocks tend to go up in value over the long term, in theory what happens is when you do all this trading, you're still going to get your gains, but you're getting to bank some losses immediately. And so in this example right here, let's assume you bought Home Depot and you sold Home Depot. And at the time you sold Home Depot, it had a loss. You're going to generate a loss, and then you generally almost immediately want to reinvest it. And you can reinvest in something like Lowe's, which would be a similar in class stock, or Home Depot again after wash rules. Okay, and you're going to rinse and repeat this as often as you can to generate these losses. And you're forward loading the gains way off into the future. Now you typically want to pair this with a direct indexing strategy, and here's why you're going to want to look at doing this. If you could choose the perfect stock, you'd do that. In fact, you wouldn't listen to my video because you'd be on a beach somewhere living the high life, because you can always just pick the best investments. But because you can't always choose the best stock, what you're going to do is you're going to try and buy an index which over the long term has a good rate of return, like the S&P 500. Direct indexing is, instead of buying the S&P 500, you're buying 100 stocks that mirror the S&P 500. Most of them are going to be in there, but you're going to knock out some of the stocks that are in there, which will give you the ability to buy and trade within the S&P 500, mirror the returns while generating these losses. And this is called direct indexing. It's buying the stocks that are part of an index instead of buying just an ETF or mutual fund. And now this is hard. This is actually hard work. It requires monitoring and consistent trading. You can't guarantee losses on tax loss harvesting, right? You could invest and you just make money. Sorry, sometimes you just make the money. So you can't guarantee losses. You can't guarantee returns. You can't exactly track an index. This is hard. This is real work. And the other thing is you need to have initial deposits. They're around $250,000 to really make this work, to generate enough losses to make it worth your time, right? So you need initial deposits that are decent sized. You can't use qualified accounts for this. You can't use IRAs or 401ks because those aren't tax deferred. So this isn't perfect for everyone. And my suggestion is, when we're looking at the mechanics of this, if you're going to dive into this, whoever you're going to dive into it with, you should be getting illustrations or summaries of what your situation is and what you're hoping to accomplish, and not just a general concept. Now, let's assume you can generate all these losses and you can generate all these market returns, right? It worked. Well, just because you generate losses, that's not actually good enough. You can get some of that off in your taxes, but generally you want to take a big chunk of losses and mirror it with a big chunk of gains so that you can avoid taxes or put yourself in a better tax position. And so let's say that if you put yourself in a bad tax position, you're going to pay somewhere between 30.8% in long-term capital gains or around 40.8% in short-term capital gains, because you put yourself in a high tax position. If you can just lower this, we're going to not even talk about the concept where you just wipe out the taxes. Let's say you can lower this and you can save 15% on your taxes. That's a pretty significant amount of money to save on your tax bill in a year, right? 15 to 20 grand off on your taxes, actual dollars. That makes me interested if it's a generally reasonable strategy to do. And so what you're doing here is you're really trying to present yourself from having a whole bunch of taxes, pushing your tax brackets up. What you're trying to do is you're trying to push your tax brackets down and or just wipe out the taxes whatsoever. The other thing you're always trying to do, remember, is that when you pass, you get the step-up in basis at death. And this is a kind of a big tax cheat. We're not talking about estate taxes. That's what kind of gets you on the back end. But you get the step-up in basis and death, which means you could do direct indexing, grow your money, generate these losses that you can use to offset these capital events. And then when your spouse and community property estates pass away, you wipe out the taxes for your heirs. Right, so that's kind of the getting the big win on the back end as well, where you generate the returns, you win on the taxes now, you win on the taxes later. Some final thoughts on this. I've looked at these for a while before I want to dive into it, and I don't think it's probably going to worth it for people who have under $1 million of investable assets. You need to be able to generate enough losses to make the math work. You need to be able to offset your capital losses to a certain degree. There's fees paying someone like me in here. And I think to make this a good, well-rounded solution, you need enough money to put into this, which is at least $250,000. and that means you need other money as well. Remember, whoever's doing this should be able to generally give you good estimates for your specific situation. Just doing the generic math, I don't think is good enough. We're in a better technology situation than we were even 5 years ago. And so a company that can give you true illustrations is a company that can also have more robust strategies for you to choose from, is probably more confident in what they're doing. Because remember, this takes real work, and you probably are buying this from someone else. You're probably not doing this from yourself. You can always tax loss harvest yourself. Like doing some basic tax loss harvesting, that's not a problem. But trying to do a just consistent program of tax loss harvesting and trades, you're probably hiring someone. And if you're hiring someone, they better be able to give you good illustrations and be able to choose from lots of different indexes. Okay. So beyond that, I hope this was helpful talking about an interesting concept. You could definitely research more about this, but I really think the next step is, well, this is interesting. Probably to get illustrations if you really want to dive into this, or just to understand the math better, I think is a good way to go. But beyond that, we're here to help. My name is John Erickson. You're welcome to ask me questions. You can email me, call me. You can tell me how you think I'm wrong. But I really do enjoy doing these videos. And if you're looking for a financial planner to help you personally, I'm definitely out here to hire. I put my fees on my website. I'm able to work with people virtually or in my office here in Bellevue. Thanks.